for the Dayton City Council.
Oh, hang on a second. Sorry. We should be good now.
Have at it.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. We are here for a work session tonight to discuss over the language of the cannabis and tobacco ordinance. We had our City Attorney, Amy Schmidt, put it together and draft it with assistance of the Police Chief, Inga. And we are here to answer any questions you may have or any concerns that you may have before the meeting. The idea of this work session was just to talk through it so that if we had any amendments or adjustments during the meeting, and maybe would make a little less time frame for us. But Amy's here to be able to answer any questions for you, and I'll hand it over to Chief Enga and Amy, and I'll be here to answer any questions if you have any. But it's all yours.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. The changes rather speak for themselves. Obviously, the law changed related to cannabis at the legislature this past session, so a lot of cities are amending ordinances to kind of, conform with that. There's a change in the definitions of drug paraphernalia and things like that. So the changes that we have proposed effectively do the same thing to, update the language to conform to state statute as it relates to cannabis. But it was also my understanding from the chief and from other staff that there was some interest in regulating the use of both tobacco and cannabis in public places throughout the city. So we've proposed changes to the parks ordinance as well. I don't know how deeply you want to go into the line by line. I don't think it's really, I don't know if that's a good use of your time. And I would also defer to the chief if he has other comments that he wants to offer.
I think staff was looking for feedback of the difference between use in parks versus use walking down the sidewalk, or if the council had a desire to have more strict rules in the park versus just a public right-of-way.
So when the language in the state statute, where do they allow it?
Pretty much nowhere in a public place except for if it's no public places. It would just be in a private location, a home, anywhere basically that the Clean Indoor Air Act would apply. It would apply to the use of cannabis in a public place. So that would be indoors. That's where the regulations come in at the local level on the use of it in outdoors, in a park, sidewalks, that sort of thing.
Wait a minute. So they do allow it in, the state statute allows it in parks. I thought it was the other way around.
I don't think that's the case. I'm sorry if I'm fumbling and contradicting. When it comes to indoor use, it mirrors the Clean Indoor Air Act. If it's out, and it is banned outdoors in public places, just for cannabis, but not tobacco.
Yeah. So cannabis isn't allowed in the parks anyways, right now.
That's correct.
So I would think it would be,
Yeah.
I would think.
So why do we have cannabis? Why are we looking at this for cannabis if it's not allowed today?
I'm going to defer to Chief Enga on that one.
I having statutes cover state statutes or having ordinances repeat state statutes seems odd. And I thought I had talked to somebody else about this, and they said the same thing, that it's not, you can't, it's already covered by state statute that public places are not allowed. So
I think the reason why we're talking about both of them is because in the proposed changes, we, from a definitional standpoint, combine to the tobacco and cannabis so that both are regulated by the same ordinance.
yeah, no, I think to me the tobacco thing's another question. you could use this public smoking to control cannabis because it's smoking. But, I mean, it seems to me we don't have a cannabis issue.
I guess that's my question as well. What problem are we solving?
That's always the ones that pops up in my head is.
And this is just me in general as well. I don't know why. I don't like having rules for things that we don't have problems with.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council under the League of Minnesota Cities, allows persons 21 years of age or older to use, possess, or transport cannabis paraphernalia, possess 2 ounces or less of cannabis flower in a public place, possess 2 pounds or less of cannabis flower in a person's residence. Home growth is what you're thinking. You can't grow it anywhere other than your residence or your backyard without public view.
You know, I'm not concerned about what people carry. My question is can they go into a park legally and light up? And my understanding of the state statute is they cannot.
That's correct.
The law is
So-
silent on whether cannabis can be smoked in public places. It basically says that you can't use it where the Minnesota Clean Indoor Air Act is prohibited, but the law is silent on whether cannabis can be smoked in public places other than public place and governed by the MCIAA. So the law does not clearly define
Yeah, I'm
that it
reading
cannot be
the
used in a
same thing
public
you
place.
are.
That's why we, and a lot of cities have put in place the cannabis ordinances for use in public
Yep.
places, because the law doesn't define it.
Okay. I guess I'm confused because I have had another credible source I talked to that said the same thing that you just said. So.
This
Alright,
is
so let's
right off the League of Minnesota Cities website.
let's assume that you can in a public place, say in a park. Right now we allow alcohol in a park.
With a permit,
No,
right?
wait,
With
I'm
a
guessing
permit.
not, because we asked them to have the cannabis ordinance match the alcohol ordinance.
Yeah.
Then how is it that the Lions have beer sales?
You're by
They pull
permit.
liquor
They pull
license.
liquor license a
Liquor
permit.
license to- Yeah.
Okay, so if somebody has let's say they rent the gazebo in the park, they can't have beer?
Is it spelled out in our
Oh,
contract that
rents
way?
it?
Huh?
Rents it if they do insurance, yes. They can have alcohol in the park.
So if they use a caterer or a full liquor license.
Okay.
And there's
So
requirements.
if Joe Blow goes there with his kids and he has a can of beer, he's gonna get he could get a,
He would
Correct.
probably
Yeah.
be, yes.
okay. Well, I think it should be consistent with our alcohol ordinances. I think that I'm not sure, I like the fact that we're mixing tobacco and cannabis here, but I don't know.
I think that's why we're kind of having a work session, because we had general feedback of we want something in place. And I feel like there was even a conversation of walking down a sidewalk and there's a difference between what type of smoke you're inhaling behind you, but I think that's where we're looking for the feedback of if that's something the council has a care one way or the other.
Well, I'm gonna fall on the side of, I want as few restrictions as possible, but
And to me, you're gonna have it similar to the state statute, and I don't, even though it's legal, I don't think you want people walking down the sidewalk. You wouldn't want 20 18-year-olds walking down the sidewalk smoking joints.
No, I would.
I don't think. I mean,
21-year-olds.
21,
but,
yeah.
Or whatever,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatever.
Yep,
but,
yep.
yep.
Whatever the legal
But
age
it
is.
sounds like, that's why I'm saying it seems to me it should be consistent with alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have no
So
problem with
you
that.
can't do that with a beer, then you shouldn't be.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. That makes sense. I would treat it just like
But with
alcohol.
beer, we say there's a permit process that you could do to then, so then maybe it should be not necessarily, like, same to alcohol, we should have some other restrictions that says you can't pull a permit to smoke cannabis in.
Yeah, I don't know if
Right,
they've
right.
covered that yet.
No, you're not gonna get a
Not that I
permit
know of.
to
Well,
drink.
that's what I'm saying, we could do that with the alcohol now in our city, but if we wanted to.
So if there was cannabis permit.
But I mean,
guess we-
tobacco's banned a lot of places outdoors in public spaces.
Right.
Like, for instance, the city of Otsego bans tobacco use anywhere in public.
Yep.
I mean, there's nothing worse than being at the movies in the park and you're sitting down with your kids and kids all around you, the person in front of you starts smoking a cigarette.
Cigar or
and it blows
cigarette.
right in your face for the next 2 hours while they're sitting there chain smoking, watching the movie, right? Like, I don't know. I can see not allowing.
I would just, I'm under the blanket, no.
I'm not. So,
The question I had is the way it's written right now, if we don't change anything, and this was a question I got from a citizen who asked to stay anonymous, is not for cannabis, but for tobacco. You can smoke in your vehicle still, correct? Doesn't change anything? I know the answer, I'm just asking.
Without children, then yes, you can
Okay.
smoke in your own vehicle. For tobacco, cannabis,
Tobacco.
no.
Yep, tobacco, not cannabis. Yep, okay. Thank you.
so this also means, or at least what it says in here is, if somebody lights up a cigarette in their garage and walks over to the neighbor's garage, that's allowed.
Yep.
But if they stop on the sidewalk to talk to somebody, now they suddenly are in violation.
They should take one step off the sidewalk into their yard. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is I don't think
We're not gonna go after them.
we're not going to go after them. Like, unless, I mean,
I
you'd have to be
understand that.
doing it, someone have to call and complain, you'd have to still be doing it when the officer got there. Like, I don't know, I
There's a
don't.
due diligence.
I think there's the letter of the law, and then there's the actual, like, why we're putting it in place, which is different. Like, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but
Laws as imagined versus laws as done.
sure, maybe.
Well, this is the last done,
Yeah.
so.
Until
And
the
again,
cop enforces it, and
I-
it's not. So that's just where I get with it.
Just like if someone were to walk across the street to go to their neighbors while smoking a cigarette, I don't think, A, we're going to give them a ticket, and B, someone have to call and complain.
I think Paul would.
Yeah.
I just don't see that being an
I
issue.
just don't see it being that.
It
yeah.
could be an issue. Don't get me wrong. The way it's written, technically, yes, it could be, and I don't disagree with that. I just don't see that actually ever coming to fruition unless it's an ongoing issue where they're standing in the street smoking for,
I
30
get
minutes.
it, it's still illegal.
So
True.
another
So is
word-
jaywalking in a lot of places. Doesn't stop people.
No,
Even though I'm sure down in Minneapolis, you can walk down any street any time of the day and smell pot. Under state statute, cannabis, pot, same thing. Under state statute, that's not legal.
I think I can try to explain the confusion, and I apologize for contributing to it or causing it. In the new statute, it says that the language isn't clear because it talks about you can possess it and transport it in a public place, but then it also says that a local government unit, like a city, can adopt an ordinance making it a misdemeanor to use it in public. So there's that, but it doesn't specifically say you can't use it. And so it's,
Okay.
but inherent in the authority to make it a misdemeanor, the city has the authority to also regulate or ban its use in a public place. If that makes it a little clearer, I hope. I'm sorry about
Yeah.
causing
So if the state
confusion.
statute is a little fuzzy, then I can see the reason to have a city ordinance.
We adopt our
Otherwise, I
own,
would
right,
just
yeah.
follow the state statute.
again, I have no problem with it matching alcohol. I just don't,
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the permit goes, I have no idea. I don't,
Well, you're not gonna get a permit to drink a beer walking down the city sidewalk.
no, I mean,
That's
as
not
far
gonna
as.
happen.
So is
I'm
it
talking
like
about
alcohol or no?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm fine with it, us matching it kind of where we restrict alcohol use. I'm thinking, because we're kind of diverging, I know they both produce smoke if you light it up, but the ordinance also, as it's written, outlaws edibles, and
Yeah,
other
however,
stuff in
edibles
that.
in here.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know why we care about that until somebody's intoxicated, and then we care about that once they hit the road. But, as far as banning smoking in the park, I guess more broadly with the regular cigarettes and stuff, I gotta tell you that, we banned smoking on the hospital properties, and that is such a nightmare to enforce. Absolute nightmare. You're gonna be, we've literally wasted thousands of security personnel hours on this kind of nonsense, because people will go in their cars in the ramp and say, I'm in my private vehicle, smoking's allowed in a private vehicle on hospital property, and you go around on that, and of course, there's, visitors that want to huddle outside the door and smoke, and, how bad do you want to harass people over something
Well, and
that's
how
illegal?
many
So,
complaints do you want to take?
Right.
Or, I don't know.
right, so right, and how many complaints are we getting now, I guess? You talked about a scenario that's probably real happened, and that would be annoying, and it would be better if it was outlawed, and it's too bad that people don't have some common sense about
Or
some of
that
that kind
somebody
of stuff.
wasn't a jerk. I just hate having laws because they're jerks, so.
Right, but, on any kind of annual basis, how many complaints do you get, Chief, about smoking in the parks?
0.
Yeah, 0.
So we're gonna put something in place that's gonna, that is gonna create work for you, if it's really gonna be enforced. And if it's not gonna be enforced, I don't think we should have it.
So I only had one resident get a hold of me over this, and they were a non-smoker, and they said, "What are you doing?" They didn't feel it should be illegal in the parks. Actually, they specifically called out sidewalks too. Somebody's standing out on their sidewalk talking to the neighbor, and they're in violation. So,
And we're only talking about tobacco, right?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So just for clarity, we're all on the same page when it comes to cannabis, right? We think cannabis should match
think so.
alcohol. Is that a fair?
Sure.
Okay.
I just don't know how
I
we
just
do
wanted
that.
yeah, so I think now the question is more on tobacco and less around cannabis. Is that a fair statement? Just so we're all on the same page.
That's what I was just talking about.
Okay, perfect.
It's just
Okay.
Strictly this.
It'll just make the conversation easier. We're all talking about the same kind of smoke. Yeah. Okay.
And if I could follow up with a question, one of the questions you mentioned earlier was why are edibles included in the ordinance? It's just part of the definition when it comes to cannabis. It talks about cannabis flowers, cannabis products, low-potency hemp edibles, and hemp-derived consumer products in that same section or subdivision that authorizes the council to pass an ordinance to make it a petty misdemeanor.
So, so they could have, so with alcohol, can we have alcohol in the park, we just can't drink it? Is that what the deal is?
That's all permitted, though.
No, I mean.
No, he's saying like if you were having a rough day and just wanted to take a
Walk the
6-pack
park.
down to the
Oh.
park, but not open it, just sit next to it and watch the river go by, could you?
Well, or it was
That's
in
the
your
question.
vehicle.
Well, I don't think there's other laws that say you can't drink it in your vehicle.
No, no.
Yeah, no, that's
Talking
not what
about
we're talking about.
having it.
Well,
That's not illegal.
Yeah.
It's not illegal to
I
have
don't know.
it.
Possession.
No.
it's
Okay.
not
That
illegal
was
to have
just a different
possession
question.
of it in your vehicle. I just don't think it can be consumed.
You
Yeah, it
just
can't be
open.
open.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe the open bottle law is something like you can't have it within reach, but you can have it in like your trunk or something,
Yeah.
and that's
Okay.
fine. But you can't have it within reach, which means that you could have the ability to have open bottle.
Right.
That's from what I
So-
remember. But
Intent, yeah.
Correct,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay. Edibles just seems like something that would just be a nightmare to.
I don't know that I'd have
Enforce.
edibles even included in it. Unless you actually, I mean,
I
they
think
can
it
have
was-
them in their pocket. How are
Well-
you gonna, how is anybody gonna enforce, hey, I just seen him put it in his mouth? You know, I mean, it's gonna be there for 15 seconds and,
It's when they have a bowl of them sitting out next to the potato salad and stuff at the picnic.
Yeah, I don't know how we close out the cannabis thing. I'd be fine with just with whatever we have on the for where you can drink. This applies. I think I'd be okay with that. Or this meaning cannabis. Not sure what that means.
Do you
The
feel the
smoking piece
same
is a different
about
issue.
tobacco?
yeah, now we need to figure out the tobacco portion because I think we got the cannabis one, which would be replicate the alcohol ordinance.
Which is pretty
essentially.
much this ordinance
Which is
minus the
correct.
smoking.
Correct.
tobacco.
Yep. And then we
If
just
I
need
could
to
ask
figure
for a point of clarification, though, when it comes to if it's cannabis, the definition of cannabis is that in all-encompassing
Yep.
list of
Including chewables?
including the edibles and
Yep.
low potency and all that
Sure.
business.
I don't know, I guess maybe, I mean, you drink
Anything-
alcohol, you chew,
Anything containing THC, I don't know.
yeah, I don't know, yeah.
Like that.
I guess I'd be fine with that definition. It just seems odd, but
I think I think it's gonna be hard to force either way. I think there are more responsible places to be doing that to begin with. So again, I think we're just,
I mean, I think the more obvious is smoking it, because you can see smoke,
Yeah.
smell it.
yeah.
Yeah.
As far as the tobacco issue, I don't think it's that big a deal if somebody's having a cigarette walking down the sidewalk. I mean, I just
I don't
don't.
either, but we'll see.
I have a big issue. It's counterintuitive to me. You're going to exercise and smoke, but that's
Maybe it's not
more
exercise
of
you're
a-
looking for. Maybe
yeah,
you're
it
just,
could be. You're just trying to de-stress.
Yeah,
I get it.
exactly.
Yeah. I
So is
understand.
there a difference between smoking down the sidewalk versus smoking in a park?
Again, I think it just goes back to who's going to enforce it. I think it is. This is reality of me lands right there. Is like,
I think if you're walking, for the most part, unless you have to go somewhere, if you're walking on a sidewalk, you're usually going for a walk, you usually can go the other way,
Yeah.
right? Maybe you're in a mailbox and you can't because you're going
Right.
one way, so that's a little bit easier. In a park, it could be a little different, especially because we hold city events in parks.
yeah.
You know,
So
the
that's
park
what the
thing
park
I can
thing-
handle easily with it's okay to smoke as tobacco as long as you're in a designated smoking area.
Like your car.
Sure.
Because you could easily
Yeah.
set that up.
Sure.
Yeah, it's 300 yards over that
The-
way if you want, whatever.
The only question I would have is for the chief is, would it be hard for the officers to then, like, does it make it harder to be like, well, is that tobacco, or is that a cigarette? Is that a cigarette, or is that cannabis if someone's smoking? Where if it's just no smoking, it's just easier for them to know and makes it less confrontational for your officers and they have to deal with it.
Marijuana has a completely different smell than tobacco.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm going back to Dave's point. I'm not sure what problem we're trying to fix. I personally, I don't smoke, but I don't have a problem with smokers. And if I'm in a park next to somebody who's smoking, then he's just a jerk. I don't know how often that really happens, but there's a lot of other things that I get irritated at far more. So, barking dogs, but. I don't know.
Does e-cigs fall under tobacco too?
Well,
Or is
that was the
like
other
does.
thing. I really have a
nicotine?
hard time with also with
Like the vaping and stuff like that?
'cause, yeah.
Vaping's
Is it?
I mean, I know a lot of people that vape and they do it because they're kicking smoking. I don't know.
That's what they're
Kick-
trying to
kick-
do.
Well, that's what they're
In
trying
their
to
mind,
You just
that's
gotta
what
nip
they're
that
trying
right in the butt and be done.
That's true. I agree with that.
Been there,
But-
done it, right?
No, I don't know.
Eating it up though.
I have no appetite for the tobacco stuff.
I don't care if somebody's
It's up to
walking
you
down a
guys.
sidewalk, de-stressing or getting their exercise while not doing something healthy. But I guess as far as like the parks, I just look at the parks and it's like I want to keep them clean in a sense, and it doesn't seem like it's the place that it needs to be. So that's just my opinion. However you want to work with
So
it.
all of our indoor buildings have no smoking, right?
Because of the
Correct.
Clean Air
Public
Act.
buildings?
Yeah.
So then, to me, if we just deal with the alcohol and cannabis, that's all we need to talk about.
I think that's where I'm at too.
Yeah.
I think the smoking piece, if we're not having a problem, then we don't need
No.
to legislate it.
By smoking, you mean tobacco?
Tobacco.
correct.
And in the definition that we have, smoking includes carrying or using an activated electronic delivery device, which is
So
vaping.
that falls under that too then.
So, in or out, I guess, is the question.
To me, I'll make a motion that we just handle the alcohol and cannabis part of it and leave tobacco out of it.
We're in a work session, so there's no
Yeah.
motions or anything
Yeah,
right now, but
that's
Ideas.
that's
Yeah,
fine.
I'm way ahead of them. I'm
Yep.
15 minutes ahead of them.
You can do that when we hit item G on the agenda.
So,
We're good,
my
I think.
opinion is, because you can get those, sorry, I'm not a smoker, but you can get those cartridges for the e-cigarettes that have THC in them, or I think you can.
Oh, can you? Okay.
And so if that's the case, then, you know, that's smoking to me, even if it's supposed to be steam or something.
Yeah.
So I would be okay with that being part of it.
You mean the marijuana, the
Cannabis
cannabis?
portion.
Correct.
Yeah, that probably falls under the chewables.
So that gets
It's got
into
stuff in it, but-
kind of a weird area, because you
It-
see
it
steam
just-
coming off of somebody's
Yeah, I
thing
just,
there, you don't know, are they, is it some kind of essential oils, or,
Now they
or is
turned it
or
into
is
a
weed?
sport.
I mean,
It's-
sport?
Yeah. Right?
I don't know.
Anyways, getting off topic.
I defer to Amy, but does the hemp-derived consumer products include the vapes, or is that different?
Maybe the statute quick, just to.
Or lower potency?
Hang on one second. I don't want to cause confusion by saying it wrong again.
yeah, there's low potency,
It
so,
says that in the ordinance.
so I know you can get hemp that's supposed to be THC free. Is that low potency or is that actually no THC in it?
If it says no THC, it shouldn't have any THC in it.
So it's not like near beer where it's
So
like
that's
0.5%
CBD. So that's
or the oils.
been legal for
Okay,
indefinitely. So you can get, yes, CBD gummies
okay.
or vape or hemp and smoke it, and it has 0 THC.
Okay.
Chief, can you repeat your question for me?
I was just wondering if the hemp-deprived consumer products includes the vape material.
The way that it's defined in state statute, the new statute points to the existing definition of a hemp-derived product, consumer product. It doesn't, it refers to a product that doesn't contain cannabis flower or cannabis concentrate, and the cannabis concentrate, I think, would be the vape. Or artificially derived cannabinoids.
I think the vape was defined by the battery
Yep.
device.
It's the electronic delivery
Electronic
device.
Activation or something.
Yep.
Yeah, we can continue this conversation in the agenda, like I said, in the meeting. We
Yeah.
can most certainly continue the conversation, but wanted to give the council a little more time with it because this is the first time you guys have seen the ordinance with discussion, so. If you don't have any more questions, we can, again, end the work session and start the meeting. We can finish discussion during the council meeting if that works for the council.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Okay, we'll close the work session now. And we have